Hello, witches. I am High Priestess Autumn Fetus. Thank you for joining me here either on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or X for this special edition for Mother's Day of Breaking a Generational Curse. The reason why I'm broadcasting this the day before Mother's Day is because Hikate has alerted me that there are mothers who are witches who will break this generational curse before tomorrow. Don't shake your head and say you don't have enough time. You have time if you make time. The generational curse that you need to break before Mother's Day is if you have a son and you are the female parent, you have a son. You have got to stop referring to your son as your king or prince. Your son is not your king or prince. Your son is your son, a person that you gave birth to. The reason why this is a generational curse is because when your son wants to date, when he wants to date a female or a male, you become jealous. You become overprotective. You become bitter, critical. You become a hater. Nobody will be good enough for your so called king or son. I mean, king or prince, sorry. You will have a problem with every partner he brings home for you to meet. Your son is not your king or your prince. You may have heard female parents call their sons, that's my king, that's my prince. And it's most likely because their son does not have his father or any male influence in his life. So the mother feels like she has to step up and be both mother and father. What the mother needs to do, what the mother has to do, is go find her own husband or her own boyfriend and let her son be her son. This also goes for your little friends. Your little friends who say, oh, he's going to be a heartbreaker. Oh, he's going to be in trouble when he grows up. Oh, he's going to have all the girls when he grows up. That's sexualizing your child. Those are not your friends. Be very mindful of how your friends refer to your son. It's creepy, it's weird, and your friend is a pedophile. They are. You don't tell a child that can't understand what you're talking about that they're going to be a heartbreaker, that they are going to have all the girls, that they are going to be a troublemaker. Your son does not understand that. Stop laughing along with your friends when it's not a joke. It's not. It's sexualizing your child. It is. It is. Now back to this. Your son will grow up not knowing how to appropriately interact with men or women. They will grow up believing that the world owes them something, that they are royalty, that people must bow down to them, that people must cater to them. And that's not reality of the world. You may spoil your son, but the world will not spoil your son. The world will treat your son based on his personality, based on how he conducts himself, based on his behavior, but not based on what he was known as when he was the only male in your life. The rest of the world is not going to see him as a king or a prince. They very well may mock him. They very well might make fun of him. And it really does hurt men, especially when they get into relationships with women who don't agree with their title of being a king or a prince. That woman may actually laugh in their face. And of course, that can lead to domestic violence, sexual violence, psychological violence, verbal violence. And guess what? That may be the one woman who fights back. That may be the one woman who throws a punch back. That may be the one woman who decides to go get her cousin, her brother, her uncle, her father to beat him up. I mean, the whole crew outside waiting for him. How do I know this? Because I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. And it was brutal. It was brutal. Treat your son like your son. Your son is not your lover. It's not just your son is a mama's boy. Your son is not a mama's boy. He is deeply confused. It is a generational curse. It is a generational curse. You break this curse by actually going out and finding a man of your own. Now, you might be wondering, how am I going to find a man in less than 24 hours? You don't. The first thing you need to do is be mindful of your words. As witches, we know how powerful words are. The more you say king and prince, the stronger you are making that generational curse. Instead, you should be referring to your son by his name or my son, but not prince and not king, because they are neither. They are neither. They are neither. Your son came out of you. They did not show up on your doorstep with flowers trying to take you out on a date. Your son is your son. Your son is not your king or prince. You break this generational curse by changing the wording that you use. Stop saying prince. Stop saying king. Call your son by his name, or just say my son. But don't say king and prince, because you are making generational curse stronger, harder to break. It's hard to break a generational curse if you are unwilling to admit that you have one coursing through the family's bloodline. You have to admit that you have a generational curse for it to be broken. You have to admit it. You have to admit to the suffering that you knowingly or unknowingly was a part of. In this case, you are knowingly part of this generational curse, because you still call your son king or prince. He is your son. He is not your husband. He will never be your husband. And when your son decides that he don't want to be under your foot anymore, and he wants to find a partner, male or female, you are going to be terribly jealous. You are going to do everything to break that relationship up. You will. You will. Because nobody is good enough for your son except for you. That's your way of thinking. Your way of thinking is nobody is good enough for my son except for me. And like I said time and time again to other people, when you pass away, when your life is over, finished, your son will not have, I guess you would call, his queen anymore. And then he will have no idea how to deal with women, because he spent all of his childhood underneath your wing. You never let him leave the nest. You never let him explore the world outside of your view of vision. You have to think long term. What is life going to be like after you have passed away? Because you did not break this generational curse. Your son is not your king or prince. He is your son, period. That's it. That is it. I always found it weird that women refer to their sons as kings and princes. That's my little prince. That's my king. I serve him. I'll do anything for him. It's always been weird to me. And now that Hikati has told me why it's weird, I get it. I understand now why it's weird and wrong, and why it's a generational curse that needs to be broken, that can be broken if you want your son to succeed in life, to have any kind of normal life. Break this generational curse off of your son. Stop saying that your son is your king or prince. He is not. He is your son. That's it. That's it. I've told you how to break it. I've told you actually the first step of breaking it, which is to change the words that you refer to your son as. That's the first thing you do. And then the next thing I would say that you do, well, not me, but Conte would say that the next thing that you do is you let your son have his relationship in peace. You let your son have his relationship in peace without you interfering in it. Without you interfering in it. So I wanted to come on here after being instructed by Hikate to do so, because this message is going to reach witches who need to hear it and is willing to break it tonight, this evening, before tomorrow being Mother's Day. It will reach the right witches that need to break this generational curse. So once again, I am High Priestess Autumn Phoenix. Be sure to share this broadcast on your other platforms and tell them that there is a High Priestess here in New York who is anointed and appointed by the Queen of Witches, Hikate, to be a voice for witches who have ears to hear and hands to receive Hikate's best. Thank you for joining me again, and I now release you into the rest of your evening. Bye, everyone.